Hey y'all, you want to know a secret? We all live the same life. Well, sort of. Sit down with us as we discuss various topics regarding being married millennials, where your spouse is both your best friend and your pain in the, well, you know.
Welcome to another episode of the Married to Millennials podcast. I'm Tuck.
Mishi.
What's up, baby?
Hello.
Hey, how did you enjoy your Mother's Day?
It was very nice. Very
Good,
relaxing.
good.
You
I'm
kept the
happy.
Rugrats away.
I did. I really wanted to make sure that you felt special. So, you know, I,
Well, thank you.
yeah,
I
of
think it was
course.
mission accomplished.
I appreciate that. All right. So, not to, push that aside, but it's May. And we don't have that much time left till football. I'm already counting down now. I mean, we got.
That's not where I thought you were going with that, but okay.
I'm sorry. As basketball season comes in the playoffs, I'm like, and then you start talking about the draft, and you start talking about rookie camp. I'm like, yeah, we got football coming.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm ready to watch my Ravens play
Yes, and
and the Gamecocks, of
and
course.
this kind of helps with this topic today because I joke with people and they ask me like, how did you know Mishi was the one? And there's a couple answers with that. There's one where I knew that you cared for me and I knew that you put me before yourself with a lot of things. But the second thing was when we were watching football and you were looking and you said, "No, that's pass interference because he hit him before the ball. He went for the ball before it got there." And I looked over and said, "Wait a minute, what you talking about over there?" I know you was the one then.
I'm the son my daddy never had.
I love it though. Hey, we get to talk football.
I
We
don't
can
know,
start
but
talking
that
about
might be the third thing that made you say I was the one.
what was the second then?
Applebee's.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes. Our first date. Well, yeah, first date. Uh,
Official.
Official
Yeah.
date, yeah.
Yeah.
And I took you to Applebee's, and in my mind, I was like, man, yeah, I want to take her out, but I'm broke, so I'm gonna let her see what she wants first. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm a judge off of what she gets, because if she gets something real high ticket, I'm gonna go low ticket so that we can balance it out. But she said the most beautiful words in the world. You said, we can get the 2 for $20. I said, Lord Jesus, I found her. I found her.
Listen, I was getting the pasta. You wanted chicken fingers. It
Yes,
worked out.
right.
We had some mozzarella sticks.
You're right. We ate good.
Yep, absolutely.
Ate good on the budget.
I
And
come from a frugal family, so it ain't got nothing to do with
hey,
me.
listen, ain't nothing wrong with that at all.
Didn't bother me none.
And I guess I come from a frugal family as well too.
You were just cheap
Yeah, I was
and
cheap.
broke.
You're right. Cheap and broke. That's a horrible combination.
It actually works out because I mean, if you had, a caviar
That's
taste
true. On a
on a sardine budget,
right.
you
Ain't
might
gonna work
have some
out.
problems.
You're right.
But you were okay. You could make it through.
True that. And that kind of it really does go into the topic today.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about expectations versus reality, and let's kind of dive back into what. So my to our first date. My expectations was that I don't. It wasn't you. You never gave those vibes, but I was like, okay, when you take the lady out, for one, I'm expected to pay. Let's just. I mean, ain't no kind of we could talk about that another time, but
Oh yeah,
I'm
I
going to be the
expected you
one
to
to
pay
pay.
too.
Of course, yes, for sure. And I expected myself to pay. But then there comes the point where I'm like, okay, I'm expected to pay, but I ain't got dividends for that. So we got to figure this out. So my expectation was that I was going to have to pay a lot of money or take you out somewhere extravagant. But when I put out the word Applebee's, you said, "Yeah, that's fine." I said, "Okay, let's strike one. Okay, there we go. That's good. We got it." And
Check.
then check one, not strike one. Yeah, but it just kind of it made me feel a little bit better. And that's the thing, like with expectations. I don't know if it's more of it. Wouldn't probably not our more of our generation. It's more of the generation now, as far as like the dates and different things like that of where they need to go.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's just pressure from society.
that's true. That's true. And I think it's really, I don't know. I don't know if it's gotten worse because we're not in that predicament. So I wouldn't say
I,
this.
I would say it's gotten worse only
Yeah.
because social media has gotten grander.
Mm-hmm.
So now you see everything in 4K
True.
when, we might have been barely posting a picture to Instagram when it first popped up, right?
Right.
Twitter was popping, but all you did was talk on there. You
Uh-huh.
didn't post nothing,
Right.
no pictures or anything like that. But now people see people's highlight reel
Mm-hmm.
in 4K, and so you're just trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Cool. Good point. Good point. And now that we're on a different part of social media now, we're more on the marriage side because we're in different stages of our life. So we kind of see some of those things on social media as well too. And I wouldn't say that what we see is a negative thing. I think is more of a positive on our end as far as marriage, like the images that we see of marriage each and every day. One, because I think our algorithm is set for that. But two, I think that's because it's more of what we're looking for. You know what I'm saying? We have those
Hmm.
same common goals. So we kind of see some of those things, not only on social media, but in real life as well, too, with the company that we keep.
I mean, but it also can be where you have positive outlooks on things. You see things that like, oh my gosh, look what they're doing, it's great.
Yeah.
And then you're also inside of your head like, I want to do that.
Yeah. True.
Like,
That FOMO.
yeah, so I think from if you're talking about like expectations
Mm
of what things should look like,
hmm. Mm hmm.
where do you get the expectation from?
True.
All the
Very
things
true.
from around you.
Right. Which kind of brings me to the thing when you say environment and things around you. We'll take it back to before we were married as well too. Like in your mind, your idea of marriage, both in real life and on TV. What are some of the images that you saw of marriages and relationships growing up that
Hmm.
were kind of good or bad examples?
Yeah, I mean, we watched a lot of. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
so we watched a lot of Cosby Show,
Oh yeah.
which I still like to watch it to this day because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it did show like a healthy relationship between a man and a woman
Mm-hmm.
and how they react with one another in different situations because they had some pressures. They had lots of kids and
Yeah.
like just knowing how to navigate life. And then also just being with my grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they were some great role models for me
Right.
because I spent so much time with them. I mean, my grandma could be fussing, and granddaddy would hear her and just let her rant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wouldn't
Uh-huh.
say a word. He would just let her go,
I saw that
and it
firsthand too.
worked. It worked for
Yeah.
them because she would let it go because he didn't feed into it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I feel like I had positive outlooks on marriage,
Mm-hmm.
which made me want to be married one day.
Right. Same for me as well too. I really didn't see any negative relationships growing up. The one, I mean, my parents, grandparents, they all thrived. And do you feel like that? I don't know how to even word this. Do you feel like that made it easier for you to think like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to be married, and this is how I want it to look? Or do you think that there was some pressure behind it, like, oh, I got to live up to some of their standards or things like that, or
No, honestly, I think like my grandparents, for instance, just I love my parents too. Don't get me wrong.
hmm.
I'm just saying because I spent a lot of time with my grandparents with my
Yeah,
parents being so young,
right.
and I feel like that made me want to be married. Like that was like okay, that's an easy thing. Like you find your,
Mm,
people have all these expectations of marriage and like what each person's supposed to be doing and what
okay.
they are supposed to take care of in the home and all that stuff. But for me, it was just the more of the love that surrounded it.
Hmm.
I was expecting that,
Yeah, right.
more like a fairy tale type love,
Hmm.
which not everybody gets to be a part of, but for me it was big and it was like, okay, yeah, I want what they got.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, and I feel like I know, well, I wouldn't say feel like, I know I wanted the same thing, but at the same time, even though my personality is everything is, happy go lucky, everything's going good. Like I always had that thought in the back of my mind, like, with some people, I'm like, yeah, that kind of seemed a little too perfect because I guess it was more of because I was a kid, and of course, my family, they never really argued in front of each other. So I never really even got to see an argument
Yeah.
when I was growing up. I never saw a disagreement. Saw my mom mad at my dad one time, and that was it.
Hmm.
Didn't know what it was for. I just knew that it happened, but they kept it away from me. And I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing because I feel like once I got into a relationship or into a marriage and conflict happened, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like, that's not what I was expecting. I thought that, everything was so happy, everything was so loving. And that's not it. I think it's that illusion that, as a child you get to see, but then once you're in it, you're like, wait, maybe it wasn't that way. And then
Yeah.
you get to see other relationships too, like my first like relationship that wasn't like an older adult was in college, like to see somebody, and it didn't turn out the greatest. But then I'm like, whoa, okay, so is this that's what relationships are like? I don't know if I want any part of that. So it
Yeah.
was more of like me hitting reality on I'm like, do I even want that anymore? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I think there's a balance to it too, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I just said my grandma be fussing,
Yeah.
and he would just not give in to her.
Yeah.
And so I think that was part of the beauty in it, knowing that you
Mm-hmm.
can disagree and you can have differences of opinion without it being personal, without it being something that's attacking. Because I do think it's important for us as adults and as parents
Mm-hmm.
to show healthy conflict. Because
Mm-hmm.
just exactly what you just said,
Yeah.
if we never show that we've ever been frustrated or upset
Mm-hmm.
or sad even
Yeah.
about something, how can our kids internalize theirs and work with that? Like, they don't have any type of example to work off of.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, Kate has asked us before, like, you and I are both very animated.
Yeah.
We cannot even be having a disagreement and just be animated talking about something we heard in the news.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Are you fussing?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Where'd you get that from?" Like,
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but let him know, "Oh no, we're just talking about this." Like,
Mhm.
and just helping him understand, like, you can disagree, have differences of opinions,
Mhm.
but doesn't mean like you don't love each other or
Right.
you can't work through it or you know,
Yeah.
talk about the situation. So for me, that was how my granddaddy handled it, right?
Yeah.
He just, oh, car,
Yeah.
oh, car. For
Yeah.
him, that was fine because he knew she was just wanting to talk to get it out.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
she's
Yeah.
fine,
Uh-huh.
and then she's going to fix him some food and they're going to be just fine.
Right, right.
You know, everybody's dealing with their disagreements and whatever in different ways. But I
Mhm.
think that for me was key to seeing like, okay, yeah, they love each other because like
Right.
every birthday, every Mother's Day, every anniversary, my granddaddy walked through that door with a
Mhm.
card that
Yeah.
he'll read the card in the store and then he would just sign his name. That was it. That's all you're
Yeah.
getting.
Right.
But he got the card and the
Uh-huh.
flowers.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna see that. You know what I mean? And but we also can have our moments where I need a breather and he would
Yeah.
go right in the truck. It's
Uh-huh.
okay.
Right, 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 right. And there's the thing too, not even, even though we're talking about expectation and reality, is setting expectations as well too.
Yeah.
Like, setting those things early on in the relationship, like this is how I feel when this happens. And I'm pretty sure as the years gone on, he learned. I mean, you got, second,
You aggravate her on
second
purpose.
right, 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 right. Exactly. So question for you, like now, once you got into a relationship and you were in a marriage, what were some, first year like wake up calls for you, like reality hits?
I think one, social media and like just the world in general, TV, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You watching a TV show, they get married, then what happens? They have a kid,
Mm.
right? Immediately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like everything depicts that.
Right.
You get married and then a couple months after you get married, you're like, "Oh, I'm pregnant."
Mm-hmm.
That's not reality for most
Right.
people.
Right. And
That's not how that really works with the body in general.
yes,
You don't just get pregnant every day.
thank you.
So I think for me, just being the organized person I am,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't control what happened.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
right, right, right.
there's no, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like I grew up knowing I wanted to go to USC.
Yeah. Hmm.
I knew that.
Yes.
Well, I worked my butt off in school to make sure I had the GPA and the SAT scores and all that stuff to be able to get
Hmm.
in.
Hmm.
Okay, so I kind of planned that.
Right.
Everything up to the point of me getting married had been basically a plan.
True. Okay.
The ideal expectation of what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
Then, you know, we get engaged. And you're like, oh, I want this wedding, like this beautiful wedding, like
Yes.
all this
Uh-huh.
stuff. And then you're like, hold on, that stuff costs a
This
lot
could
of money.
cost exactly,
Costs a lot of
exactly.
money.
Especially when you add that word wedding on the front of it.
Yeah, everything adds three zeros.
Exactly.
So hold on,
Right.
now I'm hit with reality there.
Hmm.
On TV shows, what happens? Who pays for the wedding? Parents of the bride.
Yeah, right. Right.
Not me, she.
Right, right, right.
Not over here.
Exactly.
We gonna help, but we
Yeah.
can't.
Right. Yeah.
And then again, like I said, like getting married, and then the
Hmm.
next thing is having children.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot this one piece. Most of the time, what happens in there? They buy a house, right?
Right,
Right
right.
when they're married,
Just buy
like
a
just move
house.
on in together, buy a
Right.
house. Again, not reality.
Not easy. Exactly.
So I think those are probably the biggest pieces for me because
Hmm.
most girls fantasize, the big dress, the dress,
Yeah.
and getting married, and their dad walking down the aisle,
Hmm.
and having children. You know,
Yeah. So going off of that, I'm gonna add to that as well too. Do you feel like when some of those things weren't met, did you feel and just going off of your personality as well too,
yeah.
things didn't go as planned. Did you feel like a failure or in certain instances or no?
I don't know if I would call it failure.
Okay.
I mean, I think the initial shock is like disappointing
Okay.
because it's like, oh, yeah, right, that's what I've been thinking about all my life. And now
Hmm.
it's like, I don't have this big, elaborate wedding. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Right.
But also, I think it comes with growth too because you start learning that, like, that doesn't really matter. You know what I
Right.
mean? That was just a fantasy based
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
things I saw, you know, growing up when I'm watching TV.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
you see that you fall in love with this perfect guy
Yeah.
and everything just runs smoothly, and you graduate college and you make six figures off the bat. Yeah, right. You can barely rub two dimes together.
Once again, not reality.
Not reality.
Entry level is not really entry level. So I agree with a lot of those things, and I'm gonna kind of touch on the once you get married to having kids. Like we got that question at the wedding. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
dang, can we
We couldn't
just
even enjoy the reception.
right, right. I think somebody came up to us and was like, oh, y'all, tonight's the night. Go ahead and start the film. I was like, golly, I was like, and it's kind of fast. But here's the thing, though, that's society's kind of timeline,
Yeah.
or I'll say it this way, and I use it kind of loosely, but like it's almost like you hit wedding milestones or marriage milestones. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you got to hit these steps and to
Yeah.
get to the top of the mountain
Check
of
it off
marriage.
or you
Exactly,
ain't doing it right.
exactly. And it's like that pressure of doing those things and doing it in the quote unquote right order can really be a detriment to your marriage if you don't have those conversations. And we went through our first year. We had those conversations of like we had those conversations even before the wedding when we got engaged about having kids, different things like that. But one big thing for me that kind of was a surprise in the first year, like kind of like the wake up call, is the finances.
Mm.
That was one thing that I was just like, oh wait, hold on, what you mean? So in my head, this is how I thought marriages work as far as finances goes. I have my account, you have your account, and then we go, oh, okay, so now we have all these bills, we live together, let's figure out the bills and just split it. And then you brought it to my attention. I was like, well, why don't we just have a joint account? And I was like, what is that? joint account. What do you mean? So like I knew
Yeah.
nothing about that because one, my parents never talked to me about finances, about like
Hmm.
how they did their finances or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just thought that as an adult, you was like you have your account, and I live. So for me, I really didn't live on my own. I kind of lived on campus mostly, so I just kind of paid it, and then there it was. I had my first reality check with an apartment. I was like, adulthood sucks. But
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was like my money, your money, and then we go, okay, well, bills need to be paid, so let me have this, you give me this, and then we get it paid. And I was like, well, joint. I thought to myself, and this is just me, and you can kind of agree or disagree on it. I thought that the joint account would bring problems. And let me explain why I thought that.
Hmm.
I thought the joint account would bring problems because if the money wasn't there, it was almost kind of like a shakedown, like, oh, well, where's the money at? I need it, kind of thing like that. That's how I thought it was going to be. And I'm like,
Hmm.
well, I just got my check. Let me give it to you, I guess. But then I was like, no, the joint is kind of what we dump into so that we can pay the bills. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not like you owe me $50, so I need you to put it in there so I can have it kind of
Hmm.
thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's more of it's a joint account so that things can get handled.
Yeah.
And that was just I just didn't know about that, and that was kind of a wake up call for me because me, I'm just
Yeah,
off.
because we still kept our separate accounts just
Right.
to have,
Hmm.
some funds on the side.
Right.
But I think the joint account was beneficial to us
Oh yeah,
because,
still is to this
yeah, I mean,
day.
it's just that's how things get paid. But so you thought it was a shakedown?
No, here's the thing. You don't have to realize, like, even though I have a sister, I was pretty much the only child. So it
Hmm.
was all like I came from a point of it was like me, me, me. I got to do this kind of. And I'll be honest with you, early on, and I mean, you probably agree with too. I was a little selfish.
Hmm.
Uh, it was like, well, what about me? Like that, it was all about me, really. It was like, how am I gonna feel in this? And then I had to learn early on that it ain't just about you; it's about us together. And I think it really hit me in marriage counseling as well too that it was a us, it was a me, you, and God thing. And I had to set aside like, oh yeah, so now I really do need to make decisions based on my feelings and my wife's feelings as well too,
Hmm.
and for the future of this marriage. So some of those things, like one of the things was the financial piece. I was like, okay, it makes sense. So I guess I really do need to do this kind of thing. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that was one of my wake up calls. Another question for you. So since we're talking about the financial piece, how did you navigate through the how do I even put this? I guess the 50-50 thing and the equal everything kind of stigma. How do we kind of navigate through that? You get what I'm saying?
Like thinking that we're supposed to be splitting it down the middle.
Yes.
Well, I didn't have any issues with that. Now,
Hmm.
I was not about to nickel and dime with my husband. That
Right.
just wasn't
Exactly.
for me,
Right. Right.
and I
Right.
think we had conversations about that because I mean, what works for other people works for other people,
Hmm.
but that don't work for me
Right.
because if
Me
we're
neither.
working a household, I don't have time to sit there and be like, "Hey, I'm going to do this. Send me your half." Like I
Right.
don't have time for that.
Right.
No,
Right.
the finances are the finances. If we
Hmm.
need something, I'm going to get it
Right.
and move on.
Yeah.
And so I didn't necessarily have any issues with that. Again, I grew up staying around my grandparents a lot where I saw both of them working, both of them just if we went to the store, they got what they need to get and
Hmm.
moved on. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Right.
again, I had the expectation that that's how it works is that you're a partnership
Hmm.
doing the best for both of you.
Right.
So it didn't bother me at all sharing my money. My issue would be can you handle money?
Wow. True.
That's the concern,
True.
right? Not
True. The
sharing
money
it,
management.
not buying the things that need to be bought.
Hmm.
Money management. Can you
Right.
manage money?
Right. That's a key
Um,
piece. Yeah.
is the piece that was a big sticker for me.
Yeah. I'm glad you said something about that too, about the managing of the money. Is when you're able to manage the money correctly, it gives your spouse the peace of mind that you won't have those financial troubles if something were to happen. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
Like so say like you did lose your job and it's all on the other spouse. But if your spouse is, splurging on different things or whatever, you know,
You have no
bank account, yeah,
savings.
yeah, no savings, bank account is completely empty, paycheck to paycheck, and you're like, well, we kind of need to pay this because something unexpected came
Yeah.
up, and you would be able to trust that person to be able to go, well, babe, I got it or whatever, don't worry about it. But here's the thing, here's that what we talked about before, that open communication, that joint account, none of those issues are going to even pop up. But you still have that trust that if something were to happen, then that person can handle it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, quick question. So, I want you to kind of. So, we're talking about expectations and reality. What's kind of talk about some things. Not even the first year, just some things like with me. Like you thought it was going to be this, and it ended up being that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. I
Okay.
just got to think about it.
Uh huh.
We lived together before we got married, so I feel like a lot of my stuff, I
We
mean,
telling people
it's
we were
taboo.
shacking.
It's taboo. Oh my gosh.
Tell nobody we were shacking,
Um,
girl.
we were engaged,
I
but
know. Come on, time out. What you thinking? That, that time when your parents
oh well, we weren't engaged then.
Look, no, I just want to tell it though. And he was like, my parents are coming into town. I was like, oh, all my stuff there. I mean, I lived there, but I didn't live there.
You were
All
just
my
there
stuff
all
was
the
there.
time.
Right, right. So I got shoes there, clothes there. So I'm over here thinking, I'm like, okay, let me move some of these so that when they walk in your room, it don't look like I actually live here. And I remember to this day, your mama said, tell Tuck he can come in here and go get his shoes.
Yeah, because you had the shoes at the bottom of my bed under the blanket,
Oh my
and
gosh.
we were in there doing something. I don't know. I was getting dressed or something for
Yeah.
going somewhere.
Uh-huh. And
She
I
was
had no
like,
shoes on.
"Tell Tuck to come on in here because I know he want to get these shoes that's under the bed." And I was
Right.
like,
Oh
it
my
was funny
gosh.
to me because I was like, I know why he try to hide them
I
under there.
don't know. Cause like he said, it's frowned upon. Sorry, I just had to get that out.
That's okay. No, but what I was thinking is I guess mine would be more pre-marriage because
hmm
of us living together before we got married, but
Okay.
like just how things happen in the household,
Uh-huh.
like the expectation of my house is always going to be clean,
Uh-huh.
we'll have dinner done and we'll whatever. No,
hmm
You you were a pig. Yes.
Wait, huh?
You were a pig.
My gosh, okay, continue.
Clothes would be everywhere.
Okay, got you. Okay. I was wondering where you was
Things would
going with
be
that. All
everywhere.
right, yeah. Okay.
And I could not handle it.
Okay. Uh-huh.
That right there was tough for me.
Yes.
Like the expectation of having a clean house with a counter going at all times.
hmm
Mm-mm. Nope.
See, here's the thing. You have all sisters. You never lived with boys or men. At that time, I mean, even though I was 21, I was still a boy. Like
Yeah.
I was still like, I'm still kind of in that, I'm still in
You
that
weren't
bachelor stage,
you
like as far as
you weren't
mindset.
21 when we were
No, no, I
living
mean,
together.
no, yeah, yeah. How old was I? No, I was older.
Yes.
Yeah, but maturity level. So maturity
I
age.
was 22 when we got married.
True. I'm talking about maturity age.
Uh, 8.
Whoa, it's a little low. I would at least gave myself 16. Anyway, but yeah, yeah, that is a wake up call because, like you said, you had your way. Because I mean, you had roommates, but like with you, you always had your own room, so your space was always neat, always clean. And then to come with me, and it's not there's so much. That was definitely an eye opening situation for you. For me, as far as expectations and reality, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. When we got married, just going off of relationships that I saw, marriages that I saw, not relationships, marriages that I saw, TV, marriage was gonna be easy. You know what I mean?
well, see, I was just about to say like the TV piece of it for me
Mm-hmm.
or hearing different stuff was the opposite. Like I feel like a lot of TV shows showed I mean, again, it showed like the beauty, the glamour of
Yeah.
getting married.
Mm-hmm.
But like once it got married, you saw a lot of arguments. You saw a lot of like disagreements that turned into like people leaving the house and
Yeah.
all this
That's
stuff.
true. And
I
you're
mean,
sleeping on the couch.
yeah.
So here's what I mean by the easy. Yes, I saw all those things, but like And like TV shows, it was like TV shows. Let me just let y'all know. Hollywood is written in a certain ways. You got the different parts. You got the climax. You got to come back down and to come together. I always saw that an argument would happen. The person would storm out. Commercial break will happen. I go get my snack or whatever, come back, they happy again. I'm like, wait a minute, what y'all just arguing? So it's like quick like that. They never showed the conflict resolution. It was
Yep.
always like, oh baby, I love you. And then it was like, oh, in the background. So that's what I meant by easy. I feel like conflict resolution, I thought it was gonna be easy. In our situation, it really wasn't because here's the thing. So we disagree. We'll kind of go through. We disagree because we are both two strong-minded people. We want both of our points to go across. I feel like in TV shows there was a strong-minded person and a person who goes, you know what, you're right, like that. And early on, that didn't happen. We butt heads a lot because we were both strong. We had our opinions, but in the grand scheme of things, you even for both of us, we had to realize like, yes, we have our opinions, but where do we come to a common ground with those? And I feel
Hmm.
like that developed over the years. Early on, it didn't happen that way. It was more of a headbutt, headbutt, headbutt. All right, we ain't talking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I thought that the conflict resolution was going to be easy. Not to say that you were going to lay down whenever I said something,
Nope.
but
Absolutely not.
I thought at least one of us was going to do that, but it
Not
didn't
me.
happen that way. You're right, and still don't. But
And
yeah,
don't.
and don't. But yeah, that's what I meant by the easy part of it. That marriages work. Like you have to work on it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also do think that marriage can be easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't, not to the point where like,
Happy go lucky
yeah,
every day.
not
Yeah.
sunshine and rainbows,
Right.
but I think it can be easy depending on communication and like
Right.
talking through whatever's going on. It doesn't have to be this big blow up in order for things to work.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it deals with TV, social media,
Mm-hmm.
your environment that you grew up into.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's why I was shaped with kind of like maybe almost a naive sense of marriage too,
Mm-hmm.
because I saw such positivity. I don't know.
Yeah.
Naive maybe isn't the word, but like you know what I mean. Like I
Mm-hmm.
just for me,
It's
getting
almost.
married was the goal.
Yeah.
Um, and it was going to be to someone who loved me the way my granddaddy loved my grandma.
Right. Right.
Luckily, I did find that. Thankfully,
Yeah.
I'm blessed. I know that. But that's not the case for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Got you.
what about like friendships once you get married? Like, what was the expectation about like hanging with your boys and all of that? Did you have any type of expectation versus reality kind of piece there?
Mm, I mean, for me, it was different because I'm trying to think at that time who all was still in Columbia. So at the time, yeah, everybody was still there. In my mind, because we've all graduated, I was at the point where I knew that we were going to start getting into our careers and we weren't going to hang out as much as we did in college. But I think that to be completely honest with you, I think with that having in my mind, I didn't I didn't expect anything to change. And let me explain what I mean by that. I didn't expect that the marriage would change me hanging out with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought that we were all in our careers. We'll just find time when we were anyway. A lot of us were getting into relationships at that time as well too. And I just thought organically we weren't gonna hang out as much, so it wasn't a big deal. Like it wasn't no thing like, well, dang, why I'm hanging out with her all the time? I want to hang out with my friends. It was never like that because we were all trying to reach those same goals. So it was a little bit different for me. I know for other people who were still, hanging out with their friends a lot, just like college, that can be something that an expectation that they thought they would still be able to hang out with them the same. Here's my thing. We talked about it before. When I love hard. So I knew that I was going to be with you a lot, and I was. I knew that I was going to be with you a lot. But I did have points where because I had just joined the fraternity, I thought that how do I even put this? Not I thought I would be like out with my fraternity a lot more, but I found myself going, yeah, I don't even want to do that. I want to hang out with her. But there were some times where I did go, well, we have this, and I would kind of probe, and I'm like, what do you think about that? And I will
Mm-hmm.
just wait to kind of see what you say, and I'm like, it's cool. I want to chill too. You know what I mean? And it's not that I was I wouldn't say pacifying you. It was just more of like I wanted to not check the temperature. I wanted to see where you were with it. And there were some
You were
times you
trying
were like,
to check the
I
temperature.
was, and there were some times where it was like, go hang out with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I think if I was just more upfront, like, hey, babe, I want to go hang out with the boys or whatever. Hey, like, what I'm saying, you cool with that? It's not asking for permission. It's just saying like, hey, did you have plans or anything like that? Just that communication. And there were some times where the communication wasn't there, and I would go, "You don't remember? I said that I was hanging out with them." He's like, "No, you didn't." You know what I
No,
mean?
didn't hear
So
that.
I think that if you're upfront, I think that it won't be as hard of a transition.
Yeah. See, I saw both sides of that, right?
Okay.
Because again, my grandma stayed mostly at the house. She ain't want to do nothing but watching soap operas,
Yeah.
make some dinner, and sit down on the couch. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was her joy.
Yeah.
I mean, she did some stuff at church and she was good to go. My granddad, on the other hand, had friends. Like he hanging out.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
mean, my my granddad had what called the Blue Haven Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically ran a nightclub. He
Yeah.
owned a nightclub, and so he spent a lot of his nights there,
Mm-hmm.
running the club. But in the daytime, if he was sitting on that couch and not if he wasn't taking a nap or watching King on the Hill or one of those
Mm-hmm.
old westerns,
Yeah.
and Grandma didn't need him to do nothing, he was hanging out with his friends,
Yeah.
what we call on the Mill Hill, right, in Belton.
Uh-huh.
So they would be playing cards and, hanging
Yeah.
out.
Right.
It didn't bother my grandma,
Mm-hmm.
not to my knowledge anyway.
Right.
It didn't bother her.
It probably did.
I mean, I'm sure some days,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
for the most part, she was fine. She was
Yeah.
like, whatever, bye, see you later.
Mhm.
Because she knew he was coming in a couple
Right,
hours. He
right,
wasn't staying out all night,
right.
but like it was fine for him to go
Mhm.
and hang out with his friends. Then you got my parents.
Mhm.
My parents, I grew up thinking they only had each other.
I got you. Right,
Like,
right.
I mean, they had some friends, but most of their friends came in pairs. So it was the
Mm.
husband and the wife
Mhm.
hanging out
Mhm.
with them. My parents never really went anywhere solo.
Yeah, got you.
And so I saw both sides of it where I
Right.
was like, okay, there's got to be a balance between it. Like,
Uh-huh.
you can hang out with your friends and still
Right.
spend time with your spouse. And I still tell them to this day, if they listen to this, they'll laugh because
Mhm.
I told them, I said, that's kind of toxic.
Mm. Right. Right.
Like, it's cool. Like it's such a
Uh-huh.
joke. My daddy will say, "I'm going to hang out over so and so's house," and mom be like, "Uh huh, yeah, okay."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "But what if it really is? Like, what you gonna
Right.
say then?"
Right, right. True.
Same with her. She's
Uh-huh.
like, "Well, so and so's got so." I said, "Go,
Right, right,
go."
right.
But it's just so they're so attached to each other because I mean
Mhm.
they were young.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom was 14 going on 15 when she
Mhm.
had me. My daddy was 17.
Right.
So like they were young.
Mhm.
And they knew all they had with each other.
Right,
And
right.
but I was like, that is somewhat toxic.
Yeah.
Get out of that front. So part of me was like,
Right.
I don't want to be that
Yeah.
for my husband to feel
Right.
like he can't.
Uh-huh.
Not that my dad feels like he can't or
Yeah,
my
right,
mom
right,
feels
right.
like she
No, I get
can't.
that.
But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like for them, that's all they know, really.
Mhm. You never wanted me to feel like that. I couldn't.
I didn't want you to lose touch with your friends.
Yeah.
Like I still to this day will be like, when the last time you talked to Jimmy? When the
Mhm.
last time you talked to Trey?
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that you still cultivate that friendship with them.
True. True. And and we do that, and we take on each other a lot. But we're all with families, and we respect that as well too. But we always just make sure, like, hey, we do. I don't want to call it a well check, but we always kind of make sure everybody's heads on straight, different things like that. We used to do accountability call. We ain't done that in a long time, but we gotta
Mm-hmm.
get back on that. But we used to do an accountability call, and I feel like that was always every time we were on the call, I would go like, "Yeah, fellas, iron sharpens iron." And I feel like we all got a almost like a battery boost because we were like, as men, we rarely get to like vent. We rarely get to kind of tell different things that's happening because usually the person we're venting to is the person that we're trying to give security to, give protection to, different things like that, nurture different things like that. So we never get to really vent and do those things because we don't want to cause issues, but be able to go to somebody who's like minded and be able to do those things and say those things. And I mean, you have a safe space in marriage, but it's a safer space with the guys, especially with us growing together. That's very helpful, and I feel like that's very healthy to have that relationship as well too. And I appreciate you for saying always checking on me. I do the same thing with you with your friends as well too. I'm like, when last time you checked on so and so, and go from there. So and I think it'll be like what I'm saying as far as
Yeah.
for our health, I want to make sure that you're good mental health wise as well.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think it's important.
mhm,
So just depending on,
yeah,
how you grew up, you see different things. So,
yeah,
and it shapes you. So let me ask you this question
okay.
because I was just thinking about like all the TV shows and like expectations around intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
What expectations did you have versus reality?
Mm-hmm. I thought it was every night. Every night. That's on
Not
that
that's
TV.
not the only thing with intimacy.
I know that. I know that. But let me the reason why I answered it like that is
Uh-huh.
because that's how people think intimacy is.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, I'm gonna give y'all a little lesson, it's not just the sex, right? It's the hugs, the kisses, the grabs around the waist, the different things like that, the words of affirmation, the touching every single love language, even though it's not their main love language. It's
Yeah.
always the attention, it's the intentionality, it's all those things wrapped into one to intimacy. Those things lead to the sex. So the way society makes it seem like, on TV shows that's like, especially Martin. Oh my gosh, Martin, the little horn dog.
Oh my god.
It was almost like every episode he was trying to get at Gina, but Gina was trying to tell him like, "Hey, it's more to that than just that." But he didn't understand that, and I feel like that's one thing as far as expectations because people go, "Oh yeah, when you get married, you get to, it happens all the time." But it's not that it happens all the time. It have the, how do I even word this? The stages to it. It's steps to it. It's not just going straight into it. It's like the little things throughout the day, the text, the things that you did when you were dating.
Mhm.
You have to keep those things going. And I thought, as far as
Anticipation.
exactly. And that's what I mean by it's every day. Because you have to drop those different nuggets, those different things every single day in order for it to be a healthy sexual relationship.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So your
Uh
expectation.
huh. We're supposed to be every day, but it's not. The actual act isn't every single day. You get what I'm
We
saying
know
about
that
that?
now. I'm
Uh huh.
asking you your
Yeah, I
expectation.
know. That's what I said. My expectation was that it's every day, but no, reality is not. But like I said, it's not the only thing when it comes to intimacy. That's what I was saying. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
got you.
I
Good
just wanted to
question.
ask
Good
because I
question.
mean, TV shows do. They go
They
off the
make it.
rails with it.
Yeah.
I mean, the night of the wedding,
Uh huh.
we were asleep,
Right.
exhausted,
Knocked out. We both woke up as Mr. and Mrs. Tucker, but well rested though.
and went to church.
And went to church, right. Made it on time too.
We was a little bit late.
You should have just told people we made it on time. We
Uh-uh.
were a little late
I'm
though.
not gonna lie about the
Because
Lord.
yeah, you're right. It was a far though. That's why.
It was what?
It was far. No, we
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 were in
overslept.
Anderson. It was
We
yeah, we
overslept.
overslept.
Yeah, we
We were
overslept.
tired.
It's
We were
okay.
exhausted.
Yeah, let's be honest. We overslept. But we had intentions. Expectation was to
We
go.
went.
We did go.
We made it.
Mm-hmm. Last thing, what are some kind of I wouldn't say I don't ever want to say words of advice, but lessons learned to bridge the gap between, this. I don't even want to call it fairy tale. I just want to say more of what society paints and what it actually is as far as a real love and a real marriage. What are some tips or things that you learned that kind of help bridge that gap to be able to? I guess it's more of a how do you bridge the gap to know that you're headed in the right direction
I got
within a
one tip.
marriage. Uh huh.
One only.
All right.
Expect nothing and give everything.
Mm.
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay.
Because, and I don't mean to expect nothing as in like don't
Yeah.
have any type of positive expectations on your marriage, but I mean throw out all of the fairy tale stuff or
Mm-hmm.
the imagined lifestyle that you might have thought about growing up
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to create something
Right.
as you go.
Yeah.
You don't have control over it. Like life is life, and
None.
so throw all that out the window
Good point.
and be willing to enjoy the ride.
Mm. I like
And
that.
then, as in marriage, giving giving everything. And I'm not saying, like you be the sole person, giving up everything that you've ever worked for or what you want and
Mm-hmm.
like giving up on something that's a non-negotiable. I'm just
Yeah.
saying like put forth the effort to be willing to help somebody also open up
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because you're going to navigate through it and paint your own picture.
Yeah.
So throw out the old canvas and bring in a blank canvas.
I like that.
That's the best way I can put it.
Right. One thing that I would say is it's a few words that I've been hearing a lot just because I listen to a lot of other podcasts, but mine are more not in this demographic, but and this is for my guys. It sounds horrible when I say it, but hear me out. Under promise and over deliver. And what I mean by that is don't at the beginning of a relationship or throughout say, babe, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and give like a list. Because here's the thing with, your spouse. You say these things, that's your word. You say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do
Mm,
this, I'm gonna do better, all those things, and it doesn't happen, and you just disappointed her. You know what I mean?
mm,
So I feel like when I say under promise, I'm saying like don't paint these pictures, but then when it doesn't happen, you can't get upset because you didn't paint that picture for her. You have to make sure that you execute on things. I wouldn't say move in silence, but make sure that you know in your mind, like, hey, these are the steps I want to go towards that.
mm,
And then when you over deliver with that is not saying go, lay down, but like go above and beyond. Like think about this, like say a date night. You say, hey babe, we're gonna go out for or a date. There's that element of surprise. You can go, hey, I have this whole thing planned. I'm not gonna tell her everything. I'm gonna tell her what she needs to wear and what time to show up.
mhm.
Those things like that. Don't say, hey babe, we're gonna go here, go here. But if you didn't set those reservations up and then y'all here sitting here waiting, like, I thought you said you had this plan.
You
And
speak
I speak
you
from
speak like you got
experience.
experience on
Uh-huh.
that.
Yes, for sure. I had to learn that. And that's what I'm trying to things I learned.
Yeah, but
Um,
then also from my perspective, I have to like wipe wipe it, and I probably said it like out of frustration one
yeah.
time. I'm just not going to even believe that you're going to do that again. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
it is what it is.
mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it myself or
Yes.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I truly need to take the expectation off because you don't know exactly what I think should happen
Right.
unless I told you.
Right.
So, the expectation of someone sitting here and planning a date and
Mm-hmm.
making reservations, while that seems like normal protocol for me,
Yeah.
it didn't even go through your mind. So,
No,
like,
not at all.
expectation of that
Yes.
led to disappointment,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't really like your fault. Now, I do still think you should have thought about that. Now, I'm not taking that away. But what I'm saying is, like, for you, you're like, I mean, I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
Yeah.
And now looking back on it, you probably didn't, because at that time, back in the day, we was going to Applebee's. You don't need no reservation to go to Applebee's.
Not at all.
You know what I mean?
We ain't
So
gonna
it's
have
just
bees that much no more.
but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
now we're going to some nicer restaurants. I still don't want to go to them high class ones. I just don't fit.
I got
Um,
you.
do you want sparkling water or give me a tap? I don't know. Um,
Okay.
no, but what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
like my expectation was that you would handle all of that, and
Hmm.
it wasn't necessarily fair to you. So reality is I had to. I don't want to say this as like you're a dog or anything, but teach you what I was
No, I get it.
expecting. Um,
I'm
so that
teachable.
so that you would know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing for you,
Yeah.
like teaching me what you expect so that I know.
Hmm.
Because otherwise we all just guessing.
Hmm. All right.
So throw the expectations out, communicate, and enjoy the ride.
I like that. All right, y'all. Talk to y'all later. What's up, family? Did you enjoy the episode? Well, great. Show some love. Follow us on the Married to Millennials podcast YouTube channel. Follow us on every major platform for podcasts. And if you really want to tap in, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at M2M Podcast. Let's go.